Hello, I'm Captain Chris Lee, Communications Chairman for the FedEx Master Executive Council. With me today is MEC Chairman Captain Chuck Dyer. Thanks for coming.
Hey Chris, good to be here.
Hey, we're glad to have you. Recently, you were reelected to your second term. Can you tell us some of the issues we have moving forward?
Well, there's a lot of issues moving forward. Actually, it's a lot of them are old issues, some new ones. We're deep into the Retirement Research and Development Project that's been going on now for more than a year. But it is starting to, I think, come into the final stages. We're watching the TNT acquisition and the way the flying is evolving in that arena. We're looking at fatigue mitigation, trying to improve fatigue mitigation efforts. Environmental standards is an ongoing concern. We haven't stopped working that. We've got an ongoing with the implementation of the, well, it doesn't seem new anymore, but the implementation of the contract that was ratified in 2015. We're in the final stages of implementation, so there's contract enforcement issues that continue to crop up as we try to identify all that. Grievance issues, ongoing effort never stops. Safety, we've been deeply involved with the corporate safety department, flight safety, and that never ends either. And lithium battery efforts to try and mitigate that risk are ongoing locally and around the world, as it turns out. And we're also very involved with security issues and some of the ongoing concerns there.
Well, let's break some of those down. You mentioned TNT. What's happening with the integration?
Well, I think the guys are aware that a few of the airplanes that were in the TNT stable have now been transferred to FedEx, the 777s. So some of that flying has already moved over. There's been one bid into the clone base to support that, so there's some growth going on out there. The guys may or may not be aware that the company has got shovels in the dirt in Paris, doing major expansion on the Paris hub. That's going to take a few years to complete, but once that is complete, that's when we really expect to start to see whatever potential we're going to see out of the TNT acquisition.
Do you expect there'll be more flying for the FedEx pilots?
Yeah, I can't imagine that there wouldn't be. I mean, when you look at the TNT trucking system in particular, which is a vast trucking system across all of Europe, the Baltic states, the Balkans, out into Turkey, dozens of trucking terminals that are not currently connected to an air system. You can look at all that and kind of envision a potential where there's quite a bit of possibility for air to interact with that system. So yeah, I think going forward we're going to see significant increase out that way. Challenges,
we just saw that the Belgian Cockpit Association put out the letter. What challenges do you see as we integrate?
Well, this is international, and these are different countries and different regulatory regimes. Politics is politics. The Belgian Cockpit Association obviously has concerns for the future of the TNT pilots who were transferred over to ASL along with the aircraft from TNT. So I understand their desire to protect their flying and go after, but in doing that, they are basically posing some serious questions about our operations over there. So that's a challenge, and we'll continue to meet it. I'll do my best, certainly, and I know everybody else in the leadership here will do our best to represent the interest of the FedEx pilots in that arena.
Captain Bob Avery's done some great job with environmental standards. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, you're right. Captain Avery, I think, has done an amazing job. He identified a lot of issues. He's still working on projects and still bringing new concerns in. We made some success with that with the company, and the company cooperated on several of the issues that Bob brought up. They have agreed to clean the air ducts on the aircraft. That was one of the big concerns we had, was just what was going on in those ducts. We've managed to verify the ozone converters on the aircraft are in place on the long-range airplanes. Lab servicing schedules, potable water servicing schedules have been improved, and the microphone windscreens are now available, so you can cover up the microphones. New disinfection procedures were put in place, though there have been some questions, as I understand it, from New Zealand on whether or not they like those procedures or not, but that's an ongoing issue. And so, yeah, I think there have been some significant gains there, but there's still some work to be done.
We've talked before about the filters for the oxygen mask. Is that proceeding?
Yeah, I haven't had an update in quite some time from the company where that is. I know last time I spoke with them, they were looking at it and they were dealing with the vendor and assessing the feasibility of obtaining those HEPA filters, the replaceable HEPA filters to go in the O2 mask. We think that would be obviously one very effective way to mitigate the infection risk that goes with those masks. The other concerns we've got that are still kind of hanging out there, I have yet to be briefed on any system to clean the oxygen mask in the simulators, which are, obviously is a big issue. And I've had some concerns about the sleep facilities on the aircraft and the cleanliness of the sleep facilities, which I've pointed out to the company. I haven't heard any feedback on that yet either. And one of the things, there have been a couple of major fume events in the industry with serious injury and potentially even death. So we're really interested in getting fume event training upgraded and really raising the awareness for fume events.
A big hot topic right now is retirement, the research and the education portion. Chairman's perspective, how do you see this process evolving?
Well, as I said earlier, we're entering the final phase of the R&D effort. And when I say that, that's getting us conceptually to a point where there is something to present. And I am confident that by the June MEC meeting, we'll have something to present to the MEC, and the MEC at that point can decide. I roll back all the time in this effort as we've gotten deeper into it. It's become more expansive and we've involved more people to what the goals were originally when we go out, and they haven't changed. I mean, the goals were to, one, get a better understanding of how this very complex thing works, and get the actual costs so we know exactly how it's all built and costed out, and also deal with the accounting cost issue, which had become somewhat of a major thing. We really believe that the data as we got into this process would show us the best path forward, and that's still the goal. So the goal is still the same. The goal is to come up with an approach to this that the majority of our pilots, the vast majority of our pilots, can embrace and see the logic of, and that's much better than being as divided as we've been over the last couple of years over this retirement issue. So that was the kind of goal, looking for something that we can collectively support. So the accounting cost issue that was imposed by the Pension Protection Act back in '06 has actually, as we know, been a major obstacle. So it was also to look at that accounting cost and see if there were restructuring ideas that might minimize that cost and make that less of an obstacle, and that was one of the goals that came out of this. And in that, and we've communicated this obviously to everybody, we've had quite a journey, and we've added people to our team. David Blitzstein joined the team. That's been a huge thing, having his expertise. We then reached out to Chiron. We've employed Siegel as the actuaries, Chiron plan developers. A lot of work's gone on, and we've come a long way in our understanding. The last and final piece of the team is about to be added in, will be an accounting firm, so we can build out that accounting piece on this whole thing. My ultimate goal would be to reach a place where we can reach out and survey the pilots and make sure their knowledge and understanding is adequate, and then see what the pilots want to do. And with all that data, then the MEC can make a decision whether we want to attempt to engage the corporation. So I would say one thing I've learned as we've gone along in this R&D thing is we have had a very narrowly gauged approach to retirement. The possibilities for a much more holistic approach that takes much better advantage of the tax codes and investment opportunities exist. So we have the possibility to actually do, like I said, a much more holistic approach to the whole thing and leverage this to a more valuable benefit and a more secure benefit. So that's the goal.
A lot of pilots have the question of what's the benefit of doing this outside of Section 6 bargaining?
The benefit, I mean, one huge benefit is here we are. We started down this road almost a year and a half ago. just to understand it and start the development. We're not there yet. If you were to try and do something of this magnitude in Section 6 bargaining, with all the complexity of Section 6 bargaining, I cannot imagine that you could do it effectively. I think the confusion of all that going on simultaneously, the tug of war that would take place for resources and focus, and the distractions that occur in bargaining, this is an all-in effort. We're really working this, and the people involved in this are focused on this. You know, this is serious, and so doing it outside Section 6 as far as the R&D absolutely makes sense. Whether or not bargaining outside Section 6 evolves, I think it's potentially there, and I would be surprised, to be honest, if the company didn't entertain it seriously, because there's advantages for both us and them in a restructure that would minimize the negative impacts of the tax code for them and for us. So that's why there would be potential outside Section 6 to bargain. But if the company chooses not to do that, that's obviously their choice. We're still better off. We've done all the research at that point. The pilots have focused up, figured out what's wanted. We'll go to Section 6 next time, understanding exactly what we're dealing with and where we want to go, and that should be a huge step up, you know, in unity and everything else that's needed, of course, to get through a Section 6 bargaining cycle. So it could go either way.
What's going on in Grievance?
Well, there's been recent activity there. Obviously, there's always grievances ongoing, both administrative and disciplinary. There was recently a ruling in our favor on a vacation grievance that was a challenge, a company challenge to the 48-hour buffer for reserve pilots on vacation, and we got a favorable ruling back in that, which protected our vacation benefits. So that was some nice work done by our contract enforcement grievance people. The lie flat seat for, you know, deadhead deviations and the fares, first class issues on that, that's a grievance that's active. It's ongoing, you know, so it's we're not there yet, so we'll keep everybody posted. We have been working for ages on a 767 Passover settlement. I've been told, seems like now for several months, that it's very close. Trying to work out all the permutations for every individual that was affected by these 7.6 Passover situations and the multiple bids that have stacked up on top with activation dates. And you would think going through the front end of this that it would be a pretty simple project to just go who's due and who's not, and when did it start, and not so much. It turns out it's pretty complex, you know, complicated. But I am told we're getting very close. The alternative to a settlement, which a settlement on favorable terms, obviously, for the guys that are deserving their Passover pay, is preferable to a grievance. If we start now, if this falls apart and we go into the grievance, you know, category, it's uncertain outcome, and it will take a long time. I think something that's important for people to know about the 7.6 Passover pay situation. The signing bonus from the contract, which seems like a lifetime ago, that last 5% holdback, that has been held up by two issues. One of them, the big one, is the 767 Passover issue, because to pay people their proper signing bonus, we need to know what, you know, where they were. Were they captains? Were they first officers? Were they wide body? You know, we need to know. We can't know that until the settlement's in place. ALPA policy, and this, by the way, is not determined by us locally. This is determined by the Executive Council, the fiduciaries in Washington, which is an ALPA-wide group that meets. Now, we have representation on that board, but they meet and they determine when that 5% will be distributed. And there are standards to which they're held, and this is part of it. So we've got to get the 767 Passover resolved so we know how to distribute the money. The other thing that was hanging out there, and it's not so much of an issue now, was people on military leave. We need to know what they're going to return as, what capacity. Since this has taken so long, most of those people have returned, so that issue's kind of taken care of itself. So this will be kind of a twofer. If we get the 7.6 Passover resolved, then obviously the people that are entitled to Passover out of that will benefit, and everybody will benefit because we can get that last 5% of the signing bonus distributed.
Tell me what's going on with the contract enforcement effort.
Contract enforcement is going full blower. Obviously everyone should know by now we added a third paralegal to our contract enforcement team. What I would remind guys and gals out there of is that we need to know. So when you run into some anomalous thing, an interpretation of the contract, or you're being asked to do something that doesn't make sense to you from your reading of the contract, call the contract enforcement people. We need to know. We need to document these things. We need to know what's occurring. It's tough for us when we find out at a grievance hearing that some policy's been in place for years at times, and that the company has actually been using their interpretation for several years, and we don't find out till we get to a grievance because no one's ever picked up a phone and called us to say this is going on. That's bad. One of the other things that I think is really important, and we're very close to getting it operational, is the contract answer team. And Kent Hughes, Ted Nixon standing that program up. We're down to maybe 15, 20 more volunteers and we can flip the switch. All the development's done, the beta testing's done. We've been training people in ones and twos. It would really be nice to push it over so we can flip the switch on. We have a lot of new people here. I think there's a lot of basic questions about the contract could be resolved. The beauty of that system, 24/7 answers will be available. I think it's a brilliant program, and I'm really anxious to get it turned on.
It's been real successful at other properties.
It has. United has extremely successful, and we've obviously borrowed heavily on the United program to build ours.
Can you tell us about last year's Fort Lauderdale accident?
Yeah, first and foremost, we're thankful no one was injured. It's a shame to lose a hull. Obviously, there's a cost, an economic cost there. But our crew performed, in my opinion, flawlessly. No one was injured. Also true of the firefighters and the ground personnel. Everybody handled that situation safely. We're working with the management safety team and air ops team. Our guys are engaged with that and examining that accident and what we've learned from it. One of the very positive things that's come out of all this was we recognize there's a difficulty getting support on the ground at the scene of an accident in a timely fashion for the association. And it's a challenge for the company too. One of the things come out is the company's offered to support our effort to get there. So as they move people into place, they've made a seat available on the corporate jet for us to get one of our people there. As it turned out, we did get support from Alpa National and from some people at other carriers, United, JetBlue. Critical incident response team volunteers showed up and were in place down there right away. There was some confusion about getting them access to our crew. And you think about it, it's the little things, right? At the end of the day, the crew exited the aircraft without their cell phone, so they didn't have any of their data, they didn't have phone numbers, they didn't have a phone. And they didn't get back to that for almost 2 days to actually recover that. Whatever clothes they have on their back, that's what they've got. They've got no toiletries. They've got, it's a problem. So getting somebody, the critical incident people are trained to deal with these situations. They know what kind of things come up. They know emotionally what a crew's dealing with. So we're really trying to get support quicker. That's one lesson learned out of all this. So I hope we, have greased that. The best thing in the world would be if we get all that figured out and never have to use it again. So that would be my hope. But I'm realistic and I know these things happen. So we'll keep working to make it a safer place. The lessons learned out of Fort Lauderdale will be applied obviously going forward.
Okay, what's going on in safety?
Actually, we're very pleased with what's developed over the last year or so with safety. New Vice President of Safety, Air Safety there, Bobby Wells, has stepped in. Stu Harrow has stepped up into the Managing Director slot over there. They have made a concerted effort to include the association in the safety effort. And it's what's changed is in the development of policies is where the inclusion now is occurring. What I saw when I first got here was there wasn't so much inclusion in development. There was more, here's what we're going to do, here's what we've decided. And then you'd read it, and if you had things that you questioned or wanted to add to it, with the interest of making it better, it was harder because the decisions had already been made. being included in the process as these policies are developed is extremely valuable to us and to the corporation, because more eyes on the, on the policy and on the target just help. And we raise questions that don't necessarily occur to them as they raise questions that don't occur to us. The dialogue that's occurring in that particular sector right now, I think, is exceptionally good. And I'm proud of the effort our guys are doing there. And I'm thankful for the approach the company's taking on this with safety.
We're always trying to limit our risks associated with carrying lithium batteries. What's going on there?
Well, like it's always been, it's a complex issue and it's covered a lot of things. There's efforts regulatory-wise to get better regulation on the shipping of them. That's still ongoing effort. We think the packaging, the manufacturing standards need to be improved. There are different agencies that deal with that. We're reaching out to all of them, pursuing that. We have FedEx pilots on the SAE, the Society of Automotive Engineers, interestingly enough, determines the packaging standards. So we have FedEx pilots on that panel working on the packaging standards. That's a big deal for safety. We're involved with ICAO. We have FedEx pilots interacting with ICAO, and as you recall, it was ICAO that came out with the ban, temporary ban for passenger aircraft. They came back with the 30% charge on lithium-ion batteries and also the limits on Section 2 bulk shipments. So that ICAO involvement's actually proved to be more beneficial than involving our own regulators because, as you may recall, our own regulators are hamstrung because Congress passed a law that said they can't have any more regulation on lithium batteries until another incident occurs. Interesting law. But that's what we're up against. We've worked with the pilots at UPS. The IPA has cooperated with us, and we're working together. They have an effort to get the Underwriters Laboratory involved to come up with manufacturing standards and maybe impose a situation through an insurance angle where they couldn't sell batteries in this country unless they had an Underwriters Laboratory approval on them. You see that on electronics all the time. That would be a good thing, and I think that was pretty smart move on the part of the IPA guys. So we're supporting that. Regulatory-wise, legislatively, actually, in Washington, we're pursuing criminalization of people that knowingly, illegally ship dangerous goods, lithium batteries. We just don't think it should be a slap on the hand, or you come in and you sanction this company and they show up tomorrow, ACME becomes Amex and they just change their name and keep going. We've seen that too often. FedEx polices it to the best of their ability, and FedEx is very aggressive dealing with people that ship, illegally. We have also seen FedEx do something very positive, where FedEx has voluntarily moving Section 2 batteries into known areas of the aircraft, so they're being treated as DG. And that improves the way they're handled through the system. It puts them in a place on the aircraft where we can identify them, we can examine, it's just a better program rather than having them scattered all over the aircraft. Does it eliminate the risk? No. Does it help mitigate the risk? Yes. And that's where we're going to be with lithium batteries forever. There's never going to be an elimination of the risk until some new technology comes along that eliminates it. Lithium batteries have a risk. Can we mitigate that risk? Yeah, we can. Better manufacturing, better packaging, how we handle it, how we load it, all those things matter. So we're working on all that. And once again, I appreciate the efforts of the corporation to try and make these improvements. And by the way, we talked in the past about macrolite containers that UPS uses, the composite containers. FedEx has assured us that they have done lots of testing of the containers. They believe our metal containers with fire curtains in the containers, which you see now, is a better, more fire-resistant container. That's their opinion. And I, of course, have done no testing myself, so I rely on the people that do the testing. So that's where we are with that.
We always keep a close watch on security. What's going on with security?
Boy, security. We obviously know there's still questions about animal handlers in the cockpit, and we continue to pursue solutions to that problem. The company has responded by putting the same background checks on those folks as we are subject to. There has been an attempt to restrict the hypodermic needles and the drugs and contain them. There have been questions about the efficacy of that effort. Once again, it's another case where you're not going to eliminate the risk, and we're trying to mitigate the risk to the best of our ability. We have talked to the head of TSA about this. We have been to the upper levels of the FAA about this. We haven't found much love for our concerns, and TSA is still engaged on the issue, and we're waiting to hear back from them on what they do as they review this. But that's kind of where it is. So that issue continues. There are issues of security in operations that are ongoing all the time. One of the concerns really is kind of with the TNT acquisition. TNT goes into some places, Istanbul comes to mind, where there are really serious security concerns. There's been a few bombings on that airport in the last year. Obviously, there was a coup attempt in the country. Not sure we want to have FedEx pilots on layovers there. So those are security issues ongoing. One of the really disturbing things to me personally and to our pilot group as a whole, I believe, is the ongoing issue of weapons violations. And we've now had 3 people since the company's zero tolerance effort went into place that have gotten caught in that web. The company has stated through their correspondence with us, which I published some time ago, that they have no interest in determining intent. And if you're not going to determine intent, then that's it, right? I mean, if a weapon enters, and then if I'm not going to determine intent, my assumption is your intent's bad, and that's where we're at. So we'll keep pursuing it. I know that there are people in management that are not thrilled with the policy. Obviously, we're not thrilled with the policy. We would like to see a more appropriate discipline. I really think the current policy, in biblical terms, eye for an eye, and what's going on here is an eye for a tooth. This is, I think, and I understand it, and we all want a safe workplace, and I applaud the company for all the actions they're taking to keep us a safe workplace, but I really would like them to consider the idea of maybe making some effort to determine intent and adjust the discipline appropriately.
That would be nice. A hot topic, especially here recently, is the dues reconciliation issue. What can you tell the pilots about that?
Well, we mentioned it a little bit earlier, some of the economic situations. Now, dues reconciliation is another one. So you've got the signing bonus that's hanging out there, which I wish was distributed and done ages ago. We now have had this situation with dues reconciliation, and I'm sure a lot of guys that got caught up in that are scratching their head going, what in the world? I'm trying to understand it myself. The financial and accounting system that's in place that works between the corporation, Alpa National, and the FedEx MEC is a fairly cumbersome system. So in the CBA, when we did the contract, we changed the way dues were collected from our pay. The company went in to make those changes, which amounted to writing computer code to instruct how this money would be withdrawn. And apparently an error was made in that computer code. So certain types of money, certain types of duesable income was not duesed. So the way the system works is that money is forwarded over to Alpa National, and it is some months before we get a final reconciliation at the local level to look back and make sure everything, worked out the way it was supposed to. Bear in mind that we don't know how many hours every individual pilot's out there flying on a real-time basis. So I don't know in a month-by-month thing what's actually occurring, and it does fluctuate quite a bit as the system flexes up and down, and vacation buybacks and various things occur. So it's not a situation where you would have an expected amount of income, and if it didn't look right, you'd go, that doesn't look right, so maybe something's wrong. That's, I think, when I first heard about this, I kind of thought maybe we should have caught it, but it doesn't work that way. It moves around a lot. It's a moving target. It is 3 or 4 months later before the reconciliation for a given month occurs. It takes time for all that to be accounted for. In this case, Secretary Rich Zenz actually had questions about another pay issue that he asked National to investigate. In the course of that investigation, they uncovered this. So now, the situation is where there's, I think, probably goes as low as about $40 up to about $1,700. The various people, based on how much they'd earned in these pay areas, owes, from past duesable income. We are working with the people. Alpa National's working with them. We're doing our best to make reconciliation of this as painless as we can. If you haven't called them to work on it, I encourage people to do that. But like I said, we're bending over backwards trying to make this right for people as far as getting them paid off.
When issues pop up, what is your philosophy of handling those?
Chris, I look at it, I know that the quickest, easiest, fastest way to deal with issues, if we possibly can, is with a corporation. If we can get it sorted out with them and get a satisfactory outcome, that's immediate. That's really where we focus. That's where we want to focus our resources. That's why it's so important to work with the corporation in the development of policy, so you head off issues before they even become issues. I would love to have us working with them on operational issues, which, by the way, is occurring more and more. The Flight Ops Department is reaching over more and more. We have regular meetings going on in that development. So dealing with FedEx is the quickest way. Beyond that, then I turn to ALPA for ALPA to use their influence and resources to get us to other possible outcomes. You've got regulatory places you can go to try and get relief there. Department of Transportation, Lithium Batteries falls under Pipeline Hazardous Materials Safety Administration, the FAA, NTSB, TSA, and ICAO. These are all regulatory agencies that we have actions with and have people placed with to try and get support for our issues. Finally, you've got legislative approaches you can do. We try to coordinate with IPA on a lot of the issues where they're common to cargo. But the legislative effort goes on, obviously, in Washington, but also outside. ICAO is up in Montreal. There's some legislative angles that work there, as well as with TNT in particular, because it's in the EU. The European Commission is involved in determining some of the operational aspects there. So we're having to take a look at that a little more now. We're getting involved there more. The final piece of that's the industry watchdog kind of angle, which IPA is exploiting through the Underwriters Laboratory approach. So there's a lot of different ways you can get at an issue.
And you mentioned legislative. I guess that's why it's so important to get involved in PAC and contributions and.
Yeah, it is important, and the PAC actually, the amount of participation by each property determines who gets seats on that PAC steering board. You would like to be on the PAC steering committee because that's the committee that makes the determination where we're going to apply our resources. We have fallen off some in our PAC contributions. I would love to see us ramp up our PAC contributions and get back in that steering committee position so we can have more influence on this. I would remind everybody that this PAC is not a partisan PAC. Well, it's partisan to the point that it's pilot partisan. I mean, the PAC is only interested in our issues, and they're interested in anybody that will support our issues, Democrat, Republican. I was just up in Washington at the executive board meeting, and they had a briefing on the PAC, and right now, I think there's 48% of PAC contributions were going to the Republican Party, 52% were going to Democratic candidates. So it's very close. That moves back and forth at different times. There is no monolithic effort there. It's not a party lever type thing. It is purely, if they're supporting our issues, we're supporting them. So again, I would encourage, I know we have a lot of new people here that have come on board over the last couple of years. I highly encourage them to give to the PAC, and whatever they're comfortable giving. Participation numbers are a big deal. They matter as far as that. It's not necessarily the total amount of money given as much as it is the actual percent of participation. So I would ask people to reach down and see what they can do to support that.
Okay, Chuck. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, I've got a few. First, I'd like to thank everybody. The guys in Indianapolis went after an idea. There's Peyton Manning Children's Hospital in Indianapolis, had an opportunity for us to sponsor a room, an aviation room up there, and some of the local pilots up in Indy kind of grabbed hold of that and they pushed it forward. when that first came forward, we thought it would require an ALPA-wide kind of appeal. We really expected to go, ALPA-wide to raise the money. Wasn't required. The FedEx pilots raised that money. So the generosity from this pilot group remains one of the things that impresses me the most. I see that generosity in these kind of financial giving. We see it with Hope House here locally and some of the other charitable operations we've got going on. This was an outstanding response on this, aviation room for Peyton Manning's hospital. I also see that generosity in the committee structure. I see the volunteerism. I see the effort people go to help each other out. And that's really what this is all about. I would go on and talk a little bit. I would ask everybody to have a little patience and hang in there with us on this retirement R&D effort. It's coming to a decision point as far as whether we continue down this road or not. I am hopeful. The things I've learned in the last year, in the last 6 months in particular, as we've gotten deeper into this now and the people we're dealing with have brought new ideas, the consultants we've hired, there's a lot of very encouraging things going on there, but I do ask everybody to hang in there with us. The 767 Passover pay issue, like I said, I keep being told it's close. I hope it's really close. I'd like everybody to get their money, and that would allow us to distribute the 5% signing bonus holdback. We're trying, truly. I mean, we are trying. We're doing our best. I would remind everybody to double down on their efforts to keep this place safe and secure. It's an ongoing challenge, I know that, and I know distractions are always out there, and I know all the stuff that we always deal with as FedEx pilots: fatigue, operational challenges, weather, aircraft that have malfunctioning or MEL systems and you're having to adjust. I get it. Been around here a long time, I get it. But I really want everybody, when they head toward the aircraft, to really focus. I want them to pull it together and really do their best to keep us safe and keep us secure. If you see something in your operations, or if you see something where we're laying over, or anything that you're aware of that affects FedEx pilots and our ability to operate, let us know. Let us know. Do not feel like it's not important. Don't feel like nobody's listening. Bring it to us. Let us know. And with that in mind, I would say that the other issue that I would like to thump a little bit is anomalous contract issues. When things happen, when you're asked to do something that doesn't make sense to you, and from your reading of the contract, once again, let us know. We need to know when these things are going on so we can get them ironed out. That's our mission here. That's what we're trying to do. And we're doing that to try and make this a safer, more secure place that has better conditions to work under. So at the end of the day, I would just ask everybody, for a little more patience on a few of these issues that seem like they're taking forever to get sorted. I do appreciate the patience of most people out there. I absolutely appreciate the support. One, the support I've gotten personally, but two, the support we've gotten as a group from the vast majority of people out there, and know that we're working through some very complex issues here, and expect to have a lot more information coming in the future.
Thanks a lot, Chuck, for coming.
You bet, Chris. Good to be here.
And thank you for watching. For more information, go to our website, ftx.alpa.org, and we'll see you next time.